Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Sawickipedia. This is the final installment on the Pioneer head units. We're looking at the one in the Cube today, as it's very similar to the one that we've put in the Mazda. The only difference is the one in the Cube also has CD and DVD player functionality, but apart from that, they're basically the same unit. So we'll start off by just looking through the settings menu. You can see here that you can set favorites. The way to do that is just to push the little star next to the item that you want to appear in favorites, and then you can unstar it to make it go away. So we'll start with the system menu. We've got mixed track settings, which is to do with one of the apps that Pioneer puts out. Radio settings, you can adjust FM and AM steps. You've got to have the actual radio turned off. At the moment it's turned on, so it won't let me change that. Regional, I believe, is it looks for weaker frequencies, whereas it mainly focuses on stronger frequencies when you're auto-tuning. And there's a couple of other bits here. These are mostly to do with emergency broadcasts, so you can turn them on or off. Bluetooth audio, you can have that on or off. It just means that Bluetooth audio won't appear in the source menu if it's turned off. Same deal with Spotify, you can have that turned on or off if you don't want it to show up. Alternatively, if you do, the beep tone, no surprise when you turn that on, everything beeps when you press it, which can be annoying as hell. Auto mix, I believe, also has something to do with Pioneer's music apps, so I won't bother playing with that. USB MTP is basically the old protocol for USB. If you've got an older phone, you might need to have that turned on, but doing so will disable Android Auto. And also App Radio. App Radio is more of Pioneer's proprietary stuff, which I don't really care for. Not when you've got Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you probably won't even bother looking at it. AV input, so if you've got something plugged into the back into the inputs, and also aux input, same deal. Oops. Camera settings, so the Cube does have a reverse camera plugged in, so we've got that switched on. If you don't have a reverse camera, you can probably just turn it off, although it doesn't really make much of a difference. You can change the camera polarity, that depends on how your camera's hooked up. Parking assist guide, you can have that on so the head unit will draw lines on your screen, which you can also adjust. But the camera in this already has lines or overlaid on it, so I'll leave that set to off. Demo mode, if you have that set on, after about 30 seconds it'll come up with a little screen from Pioneer that just spruiks the features of the unit. You can change the system language. When you first set these up, it will ask you to choose a language, but obviously you can go back and change it in the settings menu later on if you feel the need. Restore settings, that'll restore everything to the factory default. There is also a little tiny hole at the front of the unit that you can stick a pin into if you need to reset the unit that way. Touch panel calibration, it'll basically just run you through calibration, so you push different points on the screen if things aren't lining up to where you think you've touched it. I should mention in this, the screen is very responsive. A lot of the older units, you have to really push the crap out of the screen to get it to do something. This is like using your mobile phone. Dimmer settings, so if you've got it set to auto, it will use the illumination wire on the back of the unit to tell whether or not your lights are on or off. So if you turn your lights on, the screen will dim, so when you're driving at night it's not brighten in your face, and likewise when you turn them off it'll brighten up again. Manual, which means you can manually change it. I imagine that'd be a pain in the ass if you don't have access to the illumination wire. Maybe your car doesn't have one. You're probably better off using the time trigger You can basically just set sunrise to sunset, so it'll automatically dim after a certain time and brighten up in the morning. Driving position, I'm not sure what this one does. It seems to be separate from the audio setup menu, which we'll get to later. So I don't know about that one, but if you do, leave me a comment down below. Android Auto launch. It's a bit of a mouthful, but when you plug your Android phone in, it'll either automatically launch Android Auto or it won't. Picture adjustment, you can adjust brightness, contrast, dimmer, so the backlight, on the camera or on the source. System information, you just see the firmware info. You can update the firmware from this menu if you've got it plugged into a USB stick. It's just software licenses, nothing special there. In the theme menu, these, once you press any of them, they're all available under that sub menu. So you can see that if I hit clock, you can also select background, theme, illumination, so they're all the same settings. Illumination, so you can change the color of the buttons along the front. Let's leave that on blue. Oops, background. It's basically the background for the home screen. Theme, different colors for the home screen. And clock, you can set a different font for the clock, or you can have it not displayed on the home screen. That's about it there. In the audio menu, you can adjust the graphic equalizer, so there are already presets. I think that must be super bass, so very bassy. Powerful is a bit more punchy, it adds a little bit of treble. Natural and vocal are fairly boring if you're listening to music, but probably better if you are actually listening to, say, a podcast or something. Flat is just a flat equalizer curve. And then you can set two different custom modes. So once you push that, push the main screen, and you can adjust the equalizer however you like it. And obviously there's two different ones that you can set. Put that back on flat. Fader and balance, so if you know it's a bit heavy on the right hand side speaker, you can adjust that, or if you wanted it a bit more in the rear, whatever's your preference there. Won't touch that one. Mute level, so when you press the mute button on the steering wheel, the Cube doesn't actually have steering wheel controls, but you can either set it to mute the sound completely, or you can set it to attenuate, which will drop it maybe 20 to 40 decibels. I'm not sure what the exact number is for this unit. Source level adjuster, I think because we've got the radio still turned on, I'll just turn the sources off. No, that didn't work. In theory, it should allow you to make the radio a little bit louder, make your CDs a little bit quieter, or Android Auto needs to be a little bit louder, so you can preset all that kind of stuff. Subwoofer, there's no subwoofer connected, so nothing to write home about there, but obviously if you do have a subwoofer hooked up, you'll probably want to play with that menu, turn it on. Speaker level, at the moment they're all set to whatever the setup microphone has recommended. If you haven't seen that video, I recommend checking that out, because the setup microphone makes it way easier to set all these little bits, and it sounds really good once they're all set up properly. High pass filter, so if you want your speakers not to be destroyed by huge whopping bass, you can change the high pass filter. What else have we got? Listening position, so if you don't have the setup microphone, you can set the listening position to wherever you sort of prefer to have it. This will just adjust the timeline, or the timing of the sounds from each speaker to hit your ears at the same time. So it's, instead of hearing each individual speaker, it's sort of more like a headphones experience. But as I said, with the setup mic, you don't need to bother about that, because it'll automatically do the time alignment and the equalization. So definitely look at getting the setup microphone. Bass boost, pretty obvious. If you want to add a few decibels or bass, you can hit that. Loudness adds a bit more treble and a bit more bass. The cube speakers are pretty weak, so I've got that set to mid. It just helps them out a little bit. Automatic level control. This will change the dynamic range of whatever you're listening to, so everything that's a little bit quieter will appear a little bit louder. It basically just balances out dynamic range of the music. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that kind of thing, but it does have its place. I mean, in the car, a lot of other things are making a lot of noise, so quiet parts in the songs you won't be able to hear them anyway, so it may be worth turning that on. That's up to you. Sound retriever is, if you're playing MP3s or fairly compressed music, this will try and sort of restore some of that fidelity, but I usually stick to FLAC or lossless music, so don't need to bother with that. DVD setup, so this one will not be on the MVH model because it doesn't have a DVD player, but you can basically just set the defaults for your DVDs. Video signal setting, that just allows you to adjust the input for the video format, whether it be PAL or NTSC. You can probably just leave it on auto. It should do a pretty good job of working that out itself. Last menu is Bluetooth, so if you look under connection, you can see there's a couple of Bluetooth items already set up. I think I must have deleted the first one. That might have been the old phone. So it looks like even though you can have two devices paired at the same time, you can potentially have memory for many more devices if you have so many Bluetooth devices. Auto connect, so as soon as you turn the unit on, it'll try and look for the nearest Bluetooth device and connect to it, if you've got it paired, of course. Visibility, so when you're looking for this unit on your phone or whatever, it'll show up. Otherwise, you can turn that off if you've already hooked everything up and you don't necessarily want somebody to try and hijack your CD player. I'm not sure why they'd bother anyway, unless they want to play you some, I don't know, Hanson or something. Sorry, Hanson. Pin code input, so you can change the default Bluetooth pin code. Once again, I wouldn't bother unless you're really paranoid about that kind of thing. Device information just shows you the model number. So as I said, we're in the cube, so this is the AVH-Z5150. But the MVH will obviously show its model number, and that's the Bluetooth MAC address. Auto answer, it'll just, if you get an incoming call, it'll automatically answer it after a certain amount of seconds. I personally prefer to leave that off. I mean, even though this thing will no doubt tell you who's calling, you may not necessarily want to talk to them anyway. That's up to you. Ringtone, I believe this will either set it to play the Pioneer's default ringtone, otherwise it'll set to pull the ringtone from your phone and play that instead. Invert name just puts last name first, first name last. And Bluetooth memory clear will clear out all the Bluetooth devices that you've got set up. So that's it for the setup menu. It's pretty involved, that one. We'll start with the sources. So this is the radio. Down here you can either push and hold and it'll scan through to the next available channel. Otherwise you can manually press it if you want to manually tune something. Over here you've got BSM, so this will look for the strongest signals available and start programming them into their default presets. The FM can store up to 18 different presets. AM you can only have 6. I'll just wait for this to finish scanning. So you can have FM2, which gives you another 6 presets, and then FM3. Over here, if you push that, it'll show you which frequencies it's picked up and programmed. Over here, you can look for radio stations based on what they're broadcasting. So it'll try and search for a radio station that plays popular music. Mix 106 is popular, I guess. in this area, and the little phone button will just lead you into the phone book if you've got your phone connected via Bluetooth. And you can also hit that little setting, that little cog that'll take you back to the setup menu, which is usually available on all screens right in the top corner anyway. Hitting the time will allow you to adjust the time if need be. EQ will take you back into the equalizer, so you can play with that from here too. I think that's about it. So we'll hit the source off. It'll just turn everything off. It won't turn the actual unit off. There is a power off button for that. Bluetooth audio, so if you've got a Bluetooth and you want to play some tunes through it, in this case the phone that's hooked up to it at the moment doesn't have any music on it. I'll just swap it over to the other one. It'll have to have a little think about it. There we go. Never fade like your jeans would. Spotify, so if you've got Spotify on your phone, it'll try and connect to that. Don't have that. iPod, so using the USB cable that comes with the unit, you can actually, it's a little bit off camera, you can unplug that, plug in your iPhone or iPod cable. At the moment there's a USB-C cable plugged in, which is what the phones use, all the phones that we have. Camera view, so if you really want to see your reverse camera while you're not in reverse, you can do that. I'll have to release shift lock on the Cube to actually put it into reverse. Even then the camera doesn't seem to want to come on. There we go. Gotta turn the ignition on. There's the garage door. Oops, just turned it off. Give it a sec to boot up. So you can hear the CD mechanism going. Obviously in the MVH it doesn't make that noise. There is a very low hum from the fan in the back of the unit, but it's not something you're going to be able to notice when you're driving around or when music's actually playing. I think that's about it for this. The last thing we're going to look at is the Android Auto function. I don't have an iPhone, so I can't look at Apple CarPlay, but we'll check out the Android Auto function. I'll just plug my phone in. Now, if you've already got Android Auto on your phone, it'll switch to it straight away. Otherwise, your phone will just prompt you to download Android Auto and accept a few license agreements and that kind of thing. As you can see, that's the same track that I was playing a minute ago, which is there as well. But in this, we've got album art. When you're playing over the Bluetooth audio connection, it's very basic information. You don't get album art. So starting from the left, we've got our maps, and you can either manually search Google Maps, otherwise it'll look up where you've recently been. You can also look at categories if you need to go to a petrol station or the closest restaurant or something like that. And you should be able to talk to Google from here. Take me to work. It'll navigate to work. And it'll show you, where to begin. Over here, manual directions, you've got the estimated time to get there, distance, and your ETA. You can also bring up another menu here. So under settings, you can have traffic overlay set on, so it'll tell you where it'll be green if there's free flowing traffic, otherwise yellow's a slight delay and red's a big delay. You can choose to have satellite imagery on if you really want to do that. It'll obviously use up more data. And mute settings, so you can have it just tell you traffic alerts only. You can mute everything, otherwise you can have it tell you traffic alerts and turn by turn. Go back out of that and bring it back up again, because we've also got destination, so it'll zoom out and give you an overview of where you're headed. You can also add stops in there, so if you need to go past a petrol station, it'll load up what's along the way. It'll even give you star ratings and how much extra time it's going to add to your trip. Why you need a star rating for your petrol station, I don't know, or gas station. But you can also look up, you can also add stops like restaurants, supermarkets, blah blah blah. Points of interest. Show routes, so it'll show you alternative routes and how much faster or slower they're going to be. Most of them are going to be slower because it automatically picks the best route generally. But if you really want, if you want to avoid toll roads or anything, you can also set it to do that. There is a way to avoid toll roads and motorways. Anyway, it's in here somewhere, trust me. Let's move on to the next one, which is your phone. So it'll have most recent call and your favorite contacts will be up the top. You can also bring up a manual dialer if you want to call somebody that way, if you don't have them already stored in. And in the menu on the side, you can get it to dial voicemail, look through the rest of your contacts, call history, missed calls. Pretty standard stuff there. The middle one is your Android Auto home screen, so it'll have most relevant information, temperature, your most recent call. That's about it. That's all that really shows up on there. Next one is your music screen, so you can skip through tracks, play, pause, shuffle. I'm using Rocket Player. It seemed to be the best option for Android Auto, as it's got replay gain. So if you've got your files tagged with replay gain value, which will level out volume differences between all your songs, it's always good to have. Camera's having a hard time focusing on this, but you can also go into the side menu and pick a particular artist or album or playlist if you really want. This one over here doesn't really seem to do that much. You can hit return to Pioneer, which will take you back to the home screen. You can also use the center button to get to your home screen. This button over here will switch between the last used apps, so that'll swap you back from Android Auto to your home screen or wherever you were. Obviously volume up and down. You can also adjust the guidance volume up and down, and also if you're in a call you can adjust that volume as well. This button over here just brings up a little menu with play, skip, pause, all that kind of thing. Over here you've got a back button. It will just take you back to wherever you were last. Next one over is the microphone button. You can talk to Google. Hey Google. I think it wants to give me a lesson on how to use it. And the last button, which you will not find in the MVH-Z5050 because it doesn't have a CD player, but on this one, when pushing that, you can either tilt the screen or you can use it to insert a disc. I'll just chuck a CD in just to go through that as well. So it'll load that up and close the screen up. It's fairly quick. Quick as you'd really expect from this kind of thing. Not sure if it'll automatically switch to the CD. It may not because we're in Android Auto mode. I think it just prefers to stay in that over anything else. But if you go back to the home screen, you can select the disc and you can see that it's currently playing at the moment. There's just basic functions there. Like I said, it also has a DVD player. Let's just throw a DVD in. And that'll load up. You can also have video files on a USB stick. I think probably video files on your phone should work. Maybe with VLC player it might be able to hook into Android Auto. But you see DVDs boot up pretty quick. This is the awesome digital video essentials from the early 2000s when DVDs were all the rage and people wanted to get the best possible quality out of them. Now they're a bit more of a joke than anything else, but still useful sometimes. I think that is about it. Oh, I'll just quickly run through this button down here. So you can set this menu. It'll give you the option of what sources are available. If you've disabled them in the settings menu, it'll just sort of grey them out. They'll still show up, but you won't be able to select them. And you can also adjust this, so if you want to have more sources shown, you can drag that out, make it bigger, but it'll also squeeze, whatever you've got currently going on further up. Over here you can do the same with the phone. So if you drag that out, doesn't want to drag out, maybe that's all it's going to do. But yeah, you can get back to Android Auto from there, but like I said, you can use the other button to skip back between whatever you were doing last. I think that is it. If there's anything else that you wanted to look at, leave me a comment down below. I might try and come back to it, but I think I've pretty much covered everything with these units. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this series on the Pioneer head units and the installs into the Mazda and the Nissan Cube, and we hope to see you again soon. As always, you can hit like if this has helped you out. Yeah, feel free to leave me a comment, and you can subscribe. Thanks for watching the Sawickipedia. Cheers. Almost forgot the most important thing, the actual review. These units are really great. I really enjoy the Android Auto side of things. The display's really good. The setup microphone, if you end up picking that up, really helps out set everything up and makes even crappy speakers sound a little bit better at least. So I highly recommend picking one of these up. I mean, if you're going for a new car, obviously look for something that's got Android Auto. I don't know how Apple CarPlay is. I've heard it's not quite as good, but maybe they'll improve on that as well. But definitely look at picking up something with Android Auto already in it. Otherwise, if you're looking for a new head unit, be sure to grab something with, well, something similar to the Pioneer. I think Sony do a few Android Auto ones now, so do Kenwood. So definitely look at those if you're shopping around for a new unit. Thanks for watching. Cheers.